What up, friends? Ash here. Welcome back to Gents. Hope you're doing well. I am blacked out in honor of Black Friday and black fragrances. More specifically, this one, Vulcan Black Friday Limited Edition by French Avenue. I'm pretty sure this is the first time that a fragrance brand has come out with a fragrance where that's the flanker name. Like they just said, screw it, we're gonna make the fragrance black and we're gonna sell that baby on Black Friday, make us some money, boy. That's the idea anyway, I'm pretty sure. Where's the Cyber Monday flanker though? You know, where's that kind of Tron looking vibe? That's what we need. But this is what is on the docket today, the new Vulcan Black Friday limited edition. I scooped my bottle from fragflex.com. I will have this linked in the description in case you want to go check it out yourself. But past all that, past the sales and the bottles and all this stuff, is this crap any good? Ho, ho, ho! So let's go ahead and jump right into the presentation. Here you're going to see the elegant slipcover that fits over the box. You have on the front the name of the house, name of the fragrance. You've got that snake design going on. On one side it says Black Friday Limited Edition, also has the batch code. On the other side you're gonna have a QR code manufactured by Fragrance World Perfumes. Then on the back your ingredients, your sticker of authenticity, which is a scratch and scan and verify. It is an extrait de parfum 100 ml size. The sticker of authenticity is standard at this point, but I do think it's kind of funny that you'll have clone fragrances that are really not crazy expensive where they have these, and then a lot of designers and niche houses and stuff like that don't. And these do actually get duped or knocked off or whatever. You can legitimately go online and find all kinds of fake Fragrance Worlds and fake Lattafas. It's crazy. So you take the slip cover off and you have this snake skin looking box. You have French Avenue right there on the front, QR code on the back. Opens up like so, and then your bottle sits inside of a cutout there. Then we've got the bottle done up in all black except for the red eyes on the snake. Looks kind of sick actually. I like the look and like the font and everything of the Black Friday. It's got kind of a Halloween look to it. At least that's how it feels to me. You have like the snake skin pattern around the cap, French Avenue up top. On the bottom it says Vulcan French Avenue for external use only. Don't drink it. The cap clicks very snugly into place. Let's check out the atomizer. All right, here we go. Not bad. So I'm sure you guys know at this point, but if you are unaware, this fragrance right here smells a bit similar to this one right here. Xerjoff's Tony Iommi Deified, which makes sense, right? This bottle's all blacked out, this bottle's all blacked out. Yeah, you see. Question is it a good deified alternative or not? And I'm gonna break down the opening, the mid, the dry down, the performance, everything. But before I do, codes for Fragflex especially, which are here on the screen. Use the code, save that money. All right, enough codes, time to talk fragrances. Vulcan Black opens up bold and strong. This stuff is one of those fragrances where as soon as you spray it on, you know you're in for a good time. At least if you like your fragrances overpowered. Mad Max style, just in your face. That's pretty much what's going on. And this is one of those fragrances where you can immediately tell what it's inspired by. If you're familiar with Deified, as soon as you spray Vulcan Black on, or Vulcan Black Friday, whatever you want to call it, you're gonna be able to tell right away, yes, this is an alternative to this. But its execution is a little bit different, especially off the top. Vulcan Black to me leans a little bit darker when you first spray it on. Also a little bit heavier too off the top. So Deified has a little more fruit to it. A little more like apple, saffron. That comes through more clearly in the Xerjoff. So you get a little more sweetness off the top with Deified. This one over here, Vulcan Black, it still has some of that sweetness, just not as overtly present. Instead, it's a little darker, more focused on the leathery aspects of the fragrance. So it's got more of a deep, rich leather that kind of hits you right away. Whereas in Xerjoff's Deified, it's there, but it's lurking underneath the saffron and the apple. So you get more of that fruitiness, more of that sweetness right here. And instead of having it right in your face with Vulcan Black, it's more like a light kiss of those notes. And that's the main difference in the opening between the two. Obviously they are quite similar, but that's the main difference. Deified, it's brooding, it's a little bit dark, but then it has this like lightly sugared personality to it too, this lightly sugared edge. Whereas Vulcan Black is slightly more buttoned up and a little bit more somber. It's a little bit less playful, a little darker. You have this woodiness that comes out in the opening as it transitions into the mid that kind of helps shore up that leather, provides a base for it to play off of. And you get a little rose note that comes out as the fragrances dry down as well. And you get a little bit more of that in the Xerjoff as well. And as these two head into the mid, there's another difference that pops out. Vulcan Black, or Vulcan Black Friday, it gets this kind of nuttiness to it, at least off my skin. It's this warm, slightly nutty nuance in the background behind the leather. And it gives you this additional texture depth and a little bit of a difference between the Xerjoff as well. It's like its own little thing going on. Of course, the spice is still in there alongside the leather. Also, just a little additional difference between the two. And that's one of the main things that you're gonna find if you spray these side by side and go back and forth, is that nuttiness in here as you head through the mid gives you a slightly different feel directly compared to the Xerjoff. It's not overwhelming, it just gives it this like slightly rounder, lightly roasted nuance. By contrast, the Xerjoff is still leaning a little more at this point on its sweet spices. Saffron forward with the delicate layering of a little bit of cinnamon and floral and fruity nuances. That rose note that I spoke about before, you start to be able to pick that up a little bit in Vulcan Black, but it's not really a big part of the character of the fragrance. It's a little bit low key, but it provides a nice depth to the fragrance and also gives it a touch of dryness as well. It combines together very nicely with the leather in Vulcan Black and keeps it dark, brooding, and masculine. It's a little bit more grounded than Xerjoff's Deified and maybe a little bit warmer also through the mid. Now, once they hit the full dry down, the fragrances start to run in parallel. At that point, they get really, really similar. Now, again, like I said, when you first spray these on, you can tell what this is. You can tell this is this. If you're familiar with Deified, you know right away that's what this is. But it's like in the opening in the mid, there's a little twist that gives it its own unique feeling to an extent, while still clearly being inspired by this. But as it dries, they get closer and closer together. Both of these fragrances at that point have a nice, rich, deep leather with a woodsy patchouli underneath, a shadow, a whisper of the leftover saffron spiciness from the opening in the mid. That carries over into the dry down as well. You do get a touch more of it in the Xerjoff. Both fragrances get smoother, they get deeper the longer they stay on your skin. And in actuality, Deified starts to kind of move into what Vulcan Black has been doing for a while, because Vulcan Black has been kind of riding that lane for a good amount of time. So once that sweetness starts to kind of fade back from the Xerjoff, that's when, again, they get a lot closer. You also get a touch of that papyrus coming through a little bit clearer over here in Vulcan Black, so it gives you this faint green tinge kind of along the edge. And again, that's gonna help a little bit with that dry aspect that this one has as it dries down. Both of these in the dry down, dark leather, deep woods, warm spices, and a subtly sweet undercurrent. Now, everybody knows that Deified is strong. Xerjoff Deified is a beast of a fragrance. It projects, it lasts, it's made for fall and winter, really more winter, but we'll say fall and winter, and evening use. And Vulcan Black actually rides right with this. If you take each fragrance, you wear them side by side, same amount of sprays, spray them on at the same time, this will be just as strong as this. Because when I've been testing this one, that's what I've done. Spray this over here, spray this over here. 3 sprays here, 3 sprays here. Keep it the exact same. This does not get swallowed up by Deified. It doesn't get beaten down by Deified. This one doesn't, last 4 or 5 hours and this one's still pumping out 10 hours later. This is right there with this. And through the opening and the mid, Vulcan Black, this stuff actually almost outperforms Deified. Now, they're a little different. This one going more with like the fruit, like I talked about before, and this one kind of leads in a little bit earlier with that leather, so it's got that extra kind of oomph to it. But this stuff is easily just as good as Deified in terms of projection for me and longevity, if not slightly better through the opening in the mid. Once it hits the dry down, they project about the same, which you would probably expect, but yeah. And so of course the seasonality for Vulcan Black, it's gonna be the same as Deified. Like I said, fall and winter, but really leaning a little bit more toward wintertime use, which is good because in the Northern Hemisphere anyway, that's now. But this is fall, winter, more of an evening type of fragrance, not something I would wear really in spring. Definitely not in summer. Because both of these fragrances to an extent have this almost like ritualistic moodiness to them, right? Like they have this sort of dark, brooding aspect, like I mentioned before, that's really conveyed through the presentation, the color scheme, the note breakdown, everything else. It's just that type of fragrance that screams for cold weather. Now in terms of usability, Vulcan Black, much like Deified, not really that kind of fragrance that you're just gonna spray on and go anywhere and do anything and pull tons of compliments. it's not really the vibe. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible to pull compliments with either of these fragrances. I'm just saying, you know, compare this to something like Altair, right? For the same time of year, fall, winter time, right? So Altair, Liquid Maroon, stuff like that, Camera, you know, things of that nature. Those ones that are more warm, inviting, cozy, sweet, like that's the more typical stuff that's gonna get easy attention, we'll say. And it's not that this won't get attention because it's strong. Both of these are strong. They'll get you noticed. It's just they're more particular. It's for a more particular situation, a more particular type of person that's gonna wanna wear it. They're both more intense than that other type of fragrance. They're more intentionally bold. Both these fragrances are, to an extent, for somebody who's looking for a fragrance that makes a statement, right? Like a statement piece kind of fragrance, rather than just going for straight up mass appeal. These ones do have some of that to them. Like you can wear these, right? They're not like something completely avant-garde or whatever. Just be aware that neither one of these is necessarily made to be that type of fragrance that you grab, spray, and go everywhere, every day, every time, and 100% of people are gonna love it. Even off the strip, like Vulcan Black has got a little extra push to it. So final verdict, Vulcan Black. As I said, this is more a slight twist on the deified DNA. More leather forward right from the start, less playful, less fruit forward than deified is. And that's not saying that deified is a fruit bomb. It's not. It's just when you spray these on side by side, you can tell there's a little more of a lean toward that direction over here. It also has that slight warm nutty nuance that I mentioned through the mid that you kind of pick up in the background, gives it a slight roasted feel. And then that touch of papyrus comes through more clearly in Vulcan Black for me, giving it a slight green tinge in the far dry down. But that is nitpicking. That difference is really not that big. It's also subtly darker and a little heavier, I would say, overall from top to bottom when you compare it side by side with the JOMASHOP. The quality is shockingly high. It delivers a niche type of intensity in terms of that performance. And if you like the idea of a fragrance very similar to deified that maybe even pushes itself a little bit further, you gotta check this out because that's what this absolutely nails. Now, if you're looking for the most wearable, biggest compliment pulling Vulcan fragrance, that would be Vulcan Fuss still, but that is a completely 100% different fragrance from this that really has nothing in common with it outside of the bottle and name. So there we go. There is Vulcan Black Friday. Again, linked in the description at Fragflex. Make sure to check them out for any sales going on. And if you're watching this in the future, just check them out in general. Thank you guys for hanging with me. Stay safe out there. Take care of yourselves. And I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys.